Ladies and gentlemen, fight fans all around the world, let's talk some boxing. So, we know that Connor McGregor is actually pursuing this fight with Floyd Mayweather, and he's looking for some way, some avenue to be able to make this fight happen. And we also know that Floyd Mayweather, the very same night Conor McGregor was talking, that's Leo Santa Cruz versus Carl Frampton, he also indicated that it might be possible to fight Conor McGregor. Now, you guys are saying, well, Anson, you said you wasn't interested in this fight at all. Well, I'm getting interested. And the reason being that it's a crossover fight. Now, this is not the first time that an MMA fighter has wanted to fight a boxer. In fact, the precedent is with Roy Jones Jr. versus Anderson Silva. And if anybody knows about that incident where Anderson Silva was trying to get to fight Roy Jones Jr. in terms of boxing, they were not going to go fight each other in terms of MMA. They were going to fight each other in terms of boxing. And Roy was pursuing that fight to see if they could make negotiations to have it handled. However, that fight didn't come off the ground. Back in 2013, you see Roy Jones Jr. accepting Anderson Silva's fight challenge. I would love to do it. Okay, and this is the SB Nation MMA Mania, the Bloody Elbow for boxing. And Roy Jones Jr., he was really considering fighting Anderson Silva. But what happened? What was the result of that? Why didn't it not happen? Well, Dana White, the same guy who is sort of in charge of Conor McGregor now, was the guy that said, no way, Jose, that ain't happening, especially in terms of boxing. Roy Jones Jr. is an excellent boxer. He didn't want that matchup to happen. Now, you can see Anderson Silva is a much taller guy than Roy. But, again, that was a lot of buzz because, you know, it's intriguing to know that somebody in MMA is going to fight someone in boxing in terms of boxing. That's very intriguing. And we know that boxers have gone across to MMA. Ricardo Mayorga, James Toney, and a couple others. And they got beaten up generally in MMA. But for now, superstars in MMA to come across to boxing and do a boxing tournament with a boxer, that has not really been done much. Okay? So Roy Jones Jr. was really the top prominent boxer, the first one to endeavor to make this project happen. And now we see Conor McGregor wanting to do the same thing with Floyd Mayweather. And this is very, very intriguing. I'm not going to lie to you in that respect. The precedent of Roy Jones Jr. doing things and then Floyd following in his footsteps, from Roy Jones Jr.'s can't be touched to Roy Jones Jr.'s undefeated record, which Roy Jones Jr. used to talk about before they basically robbed him against a fighter who had sort of faked it after Roy hit him while he was down. To Roy Jones Jr., just spectacular fighting technique, explosiveness, even the techniques that Roy uses in his offense, Floyd uses in his offense. Floyd has a much more varied defense and much more elaborate defense than Roy does. Roy generally uses distance control as his defense and the high guard. But nonetheless, Roy set that, he created that foundation which Floyd has been following since. And why that's interesting to me is because you see that the precedent, Roy going into MMA, deciding, look, man, I would like to test the waters in MMA, but in a different sort of way. Bring the MMA fighter across to us. Okay? Again, Roy's a smart guy. He's not going to go try and fight MMA when he don't know nothing about MMA. So if the MMA fighter want to come across the boxing, that's different. So that's where I think Floyd drew his inspiration from. And again, Roy did this later in his career after all was said and done. And Floyd's doing this later in his career. Floyd's almost 40. He's going to be 40 in a couple days' time. So 40-year-old Floyd facing Conor McGregor is actually an interesting, intriguing thing because at the age of 40, you know, that's when a fighter actually could get really beaten badly. Okay? And Conor McGregor is not an old guy, and he's a young guy. Okay, Conor McGregor is not a boxer. But Conor McGregor is selling that he's unorthodox. Floyd has never seen this unorthodox style. Conor McGregor has looked at many different styles of fighting, and he'll find a way to beat Floyd that way, even in boxing. He's going to find something unconventional to get to Floyd with because Floyd follows under certain rules and guidelines. He's going to use something unconventional to beat Floyd. So, I mean, Connor's selling the fight on his end. He's definitely selling the fight that, it's going to be doable. We know Conor McGregor's motivation is money. Conor McGregor knows he's not going to get anywhere near that payday in his life unless he fights Floyd. So obviously Conor's going to do what he had to do to get that paycheck. And Floyd knows that he can't get no bigger a paycheck than against Conor McGregor. That would probably be the biggest paycheck, because you're talking about crossover fights, crossover schools of fighting. You have boxing versus an MMA, even though it's not going to be a boxing versus MMA match. It's going to be boxing, right? But it's a crossover, and so it's always going to intrigue people. That's just something that intrigues people. Anderson Silva versus Roy Jones Jr. was intriguing as well, thinking about that fight. And whether Conor McGregor gets beaten or not, he's going to win, because he's going to be paid handsomely with that fight. And it may be one of those record-breaking fights. I don't think it'll be bigger than Manny Pacquiao versus Floyd Mayweather, because I don't think the true boxing fans will actually tune into it. Even though I think a lot of them will tune into it because they're just intrigued by the matchup. Now, some people will say, well, will this be an official Floyd Mayweather fight? Meaning, would you consider this Floyd's number 50? I wouldn't consider it number 50, because Conor McGregor is not even a professional boxer. So I always consider the competition in terms of boxing. But in terms of a crossover fight, very intriguing crossover fight. I would love to see it, just for the sake of crossover fights, just to see the spectacle behind it, just to see the build-up of it, just to see the event of it. I think that would be great and very entertaining. But in terms of the actual fight itself, I'm not really too intrigued about it. Even though if Floyd goes in there probably underestimating Conor McGregor, he could get his ass whooped. You know what I'm saying? But other than that, I mean, Leo Santa Cruz did beat Carl Frampton, and I thought Frampton would have learned from the experience with Santa Cruz and be able to outbox him. And Santa Cruz was the one that outboxed Frampton pretty much, using his range, length, height. It was really good. So you never know, really, and Conor McGregor is talking that talk, so you never know. Conor McGregor could beat Floyd Mayweather somehow, some way, probably kick him or something. Don't get DQ'd. Floyd gets hurt, and then he punches him out, knocks him out, or somehow bitch punches him, or something he got to do. It's not conventional. He's got to break some rules to beat Floyd, and I think if he does that somehow, some way, he's going to win. Once he's not DQ'd. So you never know. I mean, you never know. That's all I'm saying. So, I mean, he doesn't have much of a chance in the ring, but you just never know. I mean, Donald Trump won the election, so who's to say Conor McGregor can't beat Floyd? Somehow he might beat him. You know what I'm saying? So we got to watch to see, and that's what makes it kind of intriguing. I do not consider it a professional boxing match. I consider it a crossover match. It's had its own category. It's not an exhibition match per se, but it is an intriguing matchup in which Floyd would make tons of money. McGregor would make tons of money. I mean, that would be a huge fight, and it really doesn't matter who wins that fight. It really doesn't. Honestly, those guys can go with their pockets full. It doesn't really matter who wins the fight. So McGregor is not going to lose no points. If Floyd beats McGregor, it really doesn't mean nothing. If McGregor beats Floyd, however, it means a lot. It means tons. I mean, Floyd will leave rich, but he'd be beaten, And in a way, Floyd's whole thing is built around him being undefeated. Just like Roy's whole thing was built around him being undefeated. And when he got defeated, people was like, oh, Roy ain't all that. He's been figured out. He's been fouled out. And then he got knocked out a couple other times. So, but my point anyway is this. Roy Jones Jr. set the blueprint, I think, that Floyd's following right now. In many ways, in many respects. In many respects, Floyd borrowed from other people, but Roy was the dude, man. Roy was the dude. So I thought I would just share that interesting tidbit with you guys, and you guys have a great one. Hey, by the way, thanks and praise to the Lord Jesus Christ for me getting more health so I can be able to do these videos for you guys. If you want to subscribe to my channel, fine, go ahead. I'm not going to be dealing with anybody who's abusive, who's cursing, swearing, and behaving silly. Okay? You have free to make your arguments, whether they're stupid or not. It doesn't matter to me. But do not be abusive. Don't be cursing and swearing up in this channel. I will remove you from the channel. Okay? Other than that, you guys have a great one. Oh yeah, donations, just message me if you want to donate to my channel. I might do this more often if you guys keep on donating. Thank you for those who have donated already. You guys have a great one.